Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Hannah. On this channel, I post a lot of anti-MLM content. There's a playlist linked right here and down below. This is my big anti-MLM playlist, over 100 videos on it. I also have smaller playlists as well, broken down by the type of video. So for example, if you are super into these horror story videos, there is its own special dedicated playlist just for those. And as I'm sure you've already guessed, I'm bringing you another MLM horror stories video. These are your own personal experiences that you've taken the time to write out and send to me. I put them all in a folder in my email. I pick out a few and I read them for a video. If at any point you have your own MLM horror story that you would like to send to me, the instructions for how to do that are in the description box below. No more intro stuff. Let's get into the stories. This story says, "Hi Hannah, I want to start by saying that I watch your channel very often because I need to constantly remind myself why I should not get involved with any MLM. I'm approached by Huns a lot and I'm a person that has a hard time saying no. That being said, I've been involved with Lime Life. One of my cousins that lives out of state messaged me every once in a while saying how great I would be at selling this makeup, probably because I'm a licensed cosmetologist and I'm mediocre at social media. After over a year of her messaging me, I decided to give it a try. She explained the business structure, calling it a family tree." Ew. That's one name for pyramid, okay. She also sent me info on the compensation plan, etc. I was instantly added to 5 group chats that were going off all hours of the day and night. I was also added to multiple Facebook groups. One girl who was really high up in the ranks did really cringy lives all the time, basically acting like a drill sergeant. I wish I still had access so I could show you. It is bad. My older sister immediately had objections. You actually remind me so much of her. I didn't want a stupid makeup sales thing to ruin our relationship, so I just kind of thought she was being mean, but ignored her criticisms and just didn't talk to her about Lime Life. I thought that since I'm a great salesperson, I would do really well with sales and not have to recruit anybody. The problem with that is that nobody has the money to buy those overpriced items, myself included. What a fantastic point. MLM products notoriously are ridiculously expensive, and I am sure that even the reps themselves are like, I can't afford this. Because if you're going to be selling that MLM product, you have to be a product of the product. You have to buy it and use it and show it and promote it. And that cost very quickly adds up over time. And that's exactly how people get themselves into this deep hole of debt within the company. They are spending way more than they're ever making back. And any amount of commission check that's coming in, they're most likely reinvesting it back into the company to buy more products. In Lime Life, you need to buy the starter kit. And to achieve active status, you have to sell or buy $300 worth of products. I was repeatedly told that besides the starter kit and your $10 per month fee for your website, you do not have to purchase anything. However, I quickly realized that if you want to be a good and honest salesperson, you will need to purchase a lot of the product for yourself so you know how things work. Exactly. I should have just read ahead. You need to have Lime Life makeup in order to go live and do makeup tutorials, etc. The starter kit comes with a facial cleanser, moisturizer, lip gloss, translucent powder, eyeliner, and mascara. Not nearly enough to do a full face demo for social media or be able to tell people about the products. So I ended up spending over $700 in product, website fees, and samples for prospective clients in the 3 months that I sold Lime Life. I calculated this one day when I was particularly annoyed that everything was so expensive that I could hardly afford to use the products, and I couldn't convince anyone else to buy them. To this day, my husband has no idea how much money I spent on this, but when I told him I was quitting because I was losing more money than I was making, he said, "Yeah, that's what MLMs are. I just figured if it was making you happy, then it wasn't a total waste of money." Oh, what a sweet guy. Oh my gosh. He's like, "Yeah, that's how this works, right? It's a scam. Of course you're going to spend more of your own money than you're ever going to make back, but as long as it makes you happy." Oh, thankfully I worked as a hairstylist and never depended on Lime Life for any kind of real income, but I could have saved that money instead. The $700 isn't all I lost through this though. Some of my close friends unfollowed me on social media and they are still to this day not following me. I also assume that I lost some of my credibility as a professional cosmetologist by so aggressively trying to sell these overpriced and crappy products. I quit by removing my credit card info from the website, removing myself from all the groups, and told my cousin what I had done done and that I didn't have the time. Thanks for all your videos. I really like watching them. And thank you for this story because you totally read my mind. I should have just read all the way through because you made every point that I already explained. That's just the way these things work. You are intended to spend more money than you ever make back. That's how the company survives, okay? Because if they actually had quality products, they would be sold through the retail market. There would be a demand for them. They wouldn't need to try and recruit salespeople to get these things out there. It's not about selling a quality product to a retail customer. It's about getting people to buy into the dream. It's about selling that product to the company's own distributors, and that's how the company survives. And I really appreciate that you also detailed that you didn't just lose money. You may have also lost some friends and some credibility as well. And that really does go to show that joining an MLM doesn't just have an impact on your finances. It really does infiltrate all of the other aspects of your life as well. And that's why I can't stand the argument that people are like, what do you have to lose? Just join, buy the starter pack, and if you aren't able to sell anything, well then at least you got a bunch of amazing products out of it. No, you didn't. You spent all this money that you would not have otherwise spent, and it impacted several other areas of your life as well. And that is such an important point to make. So congratulations on not being in an MLM anymore, and thank you for sending in this story. This story says, hi Hannah, this is a shorter and more unusual one. Love that. More unusual the better, honestly. I have very limited MLM experience. My best friend got into Cutco right when we graduated high school and had a party at my house. I bought one single knife before she realized it was stupid and got out. When I started my fitness journey, a girl I thought was trying to be my friend kept hounding me for It Works, but the results she was describing sounded too good to be true, so I just kept blowing her off until she stopped talking entirely. Something that still bothers me is this. I have a side hobby of doing professional tarot card readings. I know a lot of people think those are a scam, but I don't charge for it. It's just a fun thing to do with friends and strangers alike. I only accept donations when I set up a table at parties as an entertainer. I'm really good at it, it's a lot of fun, and I can genuinely help people talk through their problems. I make a pointed effort to never take advantage of people who are struggling. A few years ago, I was visiting a friend. He was my neighbor who had recently moved into a new house with his girlfriend, and I was there catching up. She had doTERRA oils all over the house. I knew about aromatherapy, but didn't know anything about it being an MLM. Quick side story, I was gifted a bunch of essential oils by a hun once and had them with me on a camping trip I went on. A guy was complaining about a stomach ache, and I mentioned that peppermint oil can help with that based on what I was told. I meant smelling it, but he took the bottle from me, took off the safety cover, and proceeded to take a shot of the oil. I was young and inexperienced and just let it happen. I've always wondered if he suffered internal damage from that. That just sounds painful, okay? A shot of peppermint oil straight down the gullet. That sounds like it burns, and that could not have helped his stomach ache. That probably made it so much worse. She made me a tea and asked me questions to determine what oil she was going to put in the tea. I just went with it as she explained how wonderful these oils were, how they were going to help her with her chronic illness, and how she was trying to convince her boyfriend and his friends of how much the oils can do. The whole pseudoscience thing we always hear. She briefly pitched the business opportunity, but she knew I had a job and was in school, and I dismissed any of her attempts. I ended up giving her a tarot card reading for fun. The problem is, the gist of this reading was, don't listen to anyone telling you that you're wrong. You're doing the right thing and you will be successful if you ignore the haters. There was more to it than that, but this point was definitely emphasized. I was not intending on this specifically being about the MLM because I only state what the chosen cards mean. I don't have any control over the predetermined meanings. It's up to the person hearing it to apply it to their lives. I was more spinning it as a girl power thing and that she shouldn't let her boyfriend tell her what to do. I don't know what else was going on in her life, but I feel like I accidentally added to the MLM brainwashing. Even if I was trying to reference something else, she literally drank the doTERRA Kool-Aid, and I'm sure she applied this to her new business. I never really kept up with them, and I don't know if she continued with the doTERRA MLM, but since finding out about the nature of MLMs and how she was being taken advantage of by an unethical business structure, I have felt terrible about the fact that I unintentionally encouraged it. It's interesting how when people don't know anything about MLMs, they can easily enable and encourage people who are being preyed on. This is why the education you share is so important for everyone. From the surface, everything sounded great, and I was really excited for her that she found an alternate source of income she really seemed passionate about. But now, knowing the facts about the income disclosure statements, I know it's extremely unlikely that she made any profit from it. I don't know if I would have discouraged her even if I knew the truth back then, because it's hard to crush someone's dreams when they're already invested. But at least I could have tried to focus on on different aspects of her life during the tarot card reading, rather than letting it default to supporting her MLM. I hope everything turned out well for her. This is such a fascinating and unique story because you quite literally unintentionally contributed to all these kind of like brainwashy sentiments that are repeated over and over within the MLM. No doubt she probably took that from you and held on to it and was like, yes, don't let the haters win. Don't let the haters get to me. I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna stay in my MLM. Oh my goodness, that is insane. Because at the time you probably didn't realize how much of an impact that really had on her until you're looking back on it, knowing more of the information and the situation that she was probably in. Oh no. But obviously you only know what you know at the time. You're doing the best with the information you have. You can't make yourself feel bad about that. It's okay. And I love this point that you make where you say that when people don't know anything about MLMs, they can easily enable and encourage people who are being preyed on. Absolutely, because if you don't really know what an MLM is, the only information you're receiving is like, hey, I'm starting my own business. I'm gonna retire before I'm 40. I'm gonna have generational wealth. I'm gonna have time freedom and financial freedom. And you not knowing anything about it, you're like, dang, that's great. Congratulations. Love that for you. Because at that point, you don't know any better and you're just being happy for them and what they're so excited about. You don't want to burst their bubble, even if it does seem a little sketchy. And I agree that that's why the education is so important. So that when you do hear those buzzwords, you can recognize it and you can kind of translate what they're saying into the actual meaning of it. Because it's not their own business. They don't actually get financial freedom. They're not actually going to retire before they're 40. What they're actually participating in is a scam. And it's not something that we should be supporting and encouraging. But like I already said, you're just doing the best you can with the information you have at the time. I love unique stories like this. Thank you so much for sending this one in. This story says, hi Hannah, thank you for your work and I appreciate you shining light on these horrible pyramid schemes. Please keep me anonymous as my story unfortunately involves my former job. It was truly a terrible time for me. I will change the names and any identifying details as much as I can. So here it goes. My story involved two MLMs, my former supervisor and a former colleague. I still have friends that are there but not involved with either MLM. My boss signed on to sell for Rodan and Fields and my colleague was involved with Arbonne. Literally two of the worst Hun armies out there. To give you a little backstory, I was laid off from one job as a result of downsizing. I was lucky enough to quickly land another job. It was initially a smooth transition and I was very grateful to find a great job quickly, as people that do the type of work I do are usually the first to be outsourced and let go when cuts need to be made. I was meeting my new colleagues and learning my new job. Part of this involved sharing a bit about our personal lives, as I was paired with several different colleagues to learn how they use the system and train. I got to know one particular woman. Let's call her A for Arbonne. A didn't start off telling me about Arbonne. I wasn't too familiar with the company. I thought it was products for older women, so I never was interested and neither were any of my friends. A was a little bit older than me, so I thought nothing of her asking me what products I used for my skin, makeup, and other things. I thought it was just little girl talk, even though she's about 10 to 15 years older, and trying to get to know the new girl. She started off very nice and complimentary to me. I always put effort into how I look and present myself, and so did she. I started to look at her as sort of a mentor and was flattered that such a stylish woman was taking me under her wing. She began inviting me to eat lunch with her and her friends, who were also colleagues that worked in another department. One afternoon I was super tired and she offered me a few of her fizz sticks and told me they would perk me right up. I tried one and I liked it. She asked me what I thought a few days later. I told her I felt like they helped and it was nice since I hated drinking coffee or soda in the afternoon as it can affect my sleep. She told me that she sells them through Arbonne. Little did I know I just opened the door to my doom. I'm going to pause here and cut to my boss. We will call her RF for Rodan and Fields. She approached me a little differently. She began inviting me over to her home after work and for girl talk as well. We worked in the same field and knew many of the same people at other companies in the area. I took it as a chance to get to know her better and talk shop, so to speak. I was excited to show her what I knew and share information. I wanted to present myself as valuable, connected, and helpful. Although her personal style was different than mine, she was my supervisor and could have a huge impact on my career. I was grateful she was interested in me as a person. Oh, but unfortunately, she's not interested in you as a person. She's interested in you as an opportunity, as a dollar sign, as a paycheck, as a way to make a quick buck, and that is sad. After about a month, she invited me to a Christmas party. I was a little nervous about it since it was not work-related and would be attended by her friends and family. I was the only person from work she invited. Again, I didn't think too much of it, but did have a concern that maybe this was crossing crossing a boundary, but it was a Christmas party going to be attended by many other people, so I let my guard down. Another mistake. It was a Rodan and Fields party that was at a rented event center. It was very nice. They had valet parking, servers, good food and drinks. I was introduced to her family and friends. I was still a bit confused as to what exactly was happening. After a bit of meeting and greeting, we were ushered into the main ballroom with a stage filled with expensive gifts, Louis Vuitton bags, Coach purses, a Chanel bag, and the like, all with big bows under a beautifully decorated tree. We played games, and some of the items were given away as prizes, and some were presented to what I later learned were members of their downline. It was fun, not gonna lie. I won nothing, but I was gifted with some Rodan and Fields lotion. Then two ladies got on stage and talked about how they were able to retire their husbands by selling Rodan and Fields. The husbands also got on stage and said a few words about how they were so happy to be involved with the business, and it was all about family. Then some slides were shown to us about all the trips they have taken together and the things they have been able to buy because of Rodan and Fields. Other ladies got up on stage and spoke about how they owe everything to these two ladies and that they are on their way to also retiring their husbands. Close to crying and wild applause. This is really interesting because obviously you thought that it was like a personal family and friends type Christmas party, and that's not at all what you arrived at. What I'm assuming is going on here is that it is a team party, basically. Yeah, maybe some of her personal family was there. Maybe they were part of her downline, who knows? But it's not uncommon for these kind of mega uplines to host events like this where they get their team together. There's praise, there's prizes, there's these extravagant gifts or gestures. And my thought is that maybe this was already on the calendar for her. She knew that she was going to be getting her team together. There was going to be some kind of pitch maybe, and she just kind of invited you along, like, come and see this great community, come and see what we've got going on over here. Don't you want to be a part of this? And then she's misleadingly calling it a Christmas party. It's not a Christmas party. This is a way for her to, for lack of a better term, love bomb her team and make a spectacle out of how great this opportunity is and how great the community is and how you definitely want to be a part of it. This is all my assumption, okay? Obviously I wasn't there. You would know better than me, but just based on these details, that's what I think is going on here. Not a personal Christmas party. It was a very intentional strategy on her part to invite you, to have you come and be kind of a fly on the wall to pique your interest maybe. Cut to work. As I was getting settled into my job and getting to know everyone, A and RF both started working to make me the newest member of their teams. A began pressuring me to host a party for Arbonne and my boss the same. I looked into both companies and learned what they were. I bought a few things from both of them here and there to appease them without signing up. I told them both that going to school full-time as well as working full-time, which they of course knew, I just simply did not have time to take that on. So after not being able to stave off A and not hosting an Arbonne party for her, she told our colleagues that I was, quote, very negative and had a bad attitude. And she and her group began taking lunch and breaks at different times and quit inviting me. This happened literally the day after I told her no, but she told others that it had nothing to do with that. My boss also ramped up the pressure and began calling me over to her desk, interrupting my work to plug Ronan and Fields to me. She also started talking negatively about A and Arbonne. It made me very uncomfortable. When I could no longer hold her off, she began piling work on me, so much that I was forced to work a lot of overtime while trying to take night classes. I was literally doing 4 jobs for the price of 1. I was miserable. But I was able to make other friends at work that got to know me and did not think I was a terrible person. Not too long after that, my boss quit before she could be forced to resign for her bad managerial practices. I survived all of this, and it all occurred over the time of about a year. It was a pretty miserable time, but I'm proud to say I was able to complete my education and graduate with honors despite being caught in the middle of these 2 catty Huns. I made a few lifelong friends there, and it all turned out for the best. The funny thing is, on both of these ladies' social media profiles, you never see them posting about their MLMs anymore. I think even they got tired of it. Thank you for your work, and I really hope that more companies make policies against people promoting these in the actual workplace. I think this is the first story I've ever heard of a workplace situation where you have 2 co-workers, one of them being your boss, and they're both trying to compete against each other to get you into their MLM. That makes for some super awkward, super uncomfortable workplace dynamics. You should never have to be placed in that situation. Shame on them for doing that. And it has this whole icky feeling of like you're fresh bait at the office, right? Like you're new, you don't know any better, and they're taking advantage advantage of that, and they're trying to be all buddy best friends. Come to my party, sit with me at lunch. And then all of a sudden, when you tell them no, they want nothing to do with you. Like, what is going on? Are we in high school? Super uncomfortable, extremely inappropriate. And yeah, again, just shame on them for putting you in that situation. They should know better. But honestly, if you're trying to pitch an MLM, common courtesy doesn't apply, right? They're willing to put whoever in whatever kind of uncomfortable situation if it means that they can maybe make some money out of it. And kind of interesting that after some time has passed, neither of them seem to be promoting it anymore. That could definitely be a signal that they're not involved with it anymore, because if it starts to taper off of their social media, that could be an indicator that they are taking a step back from it, which is great. We love to see that, but you have to imagine that now they're probably looking back on all the things they've done in the past, like fighting with each other over the fresh bait at work, and how ridiculous that probably made them look. Being in an MLM makes you do some insane things that you would never otherwise do, and I'm sure there's a lot of self-reflection that goes on when you finally do leave that environment and you look back on all the crazy things you tried to do to make that business work, when in the end it still didn't. This story says, "Hi Hannah, I absolutely love your videos. I listen to them like podcasts while I work my dreaded 9 to 5. Here's the story of how I had to basically confront my boyfriend's mom to warn her about the dangers of MLMs. She was being recruited by a Juice Plus doctor, hun. A little background on this Juice Plus hun. Let's call her Linda. She's a gynecologist in the OBGYN office I go to. She's not my personal doctor, thank goodness. After doing some digging, I found various calls and articles online discussing how she sells Juice Plus products to her patients, and how these pregnant women taking the supplements have the quote healthiest babies, and some medical claims about how big their umbilical cords are. Okay. I never knew Linda was even in an MLM until she tried to recruit my boyfriend's sweet mom into her scheme. We will call her Mary. Mary has been into health and wellness her whole life. She loves working out, taking vitamins, eating healthy, etc. She works in marketing and is super unhappy in her job. She's just not passionate about it anymore. She always talks about these dreams she has of someday getting into health and wellness or interior design of some sort. So basically, she's a great target for huns who think every 9 to 5 is the worst thing you could imagine. Mary's workout of choice is hot yoga, and my boyfriend and I became skeptic when she started talking about how she met this nice man whose wife sells health and wellness products. Enter Linda. To be completely honest, my boyfriend and I thought Linda and her hot yoga husband were swingers until we found out she was in a pyramid scheme. Awkward to imagine my boyfriend's parents in a situation like that. Since Mary was unhappy in her job, she decided to get more information from Mr. Hun, and she went to Linda's house one night for drinks, and to almost get sucked into Juice Plus. One night I came to my boyfriend's parents' house for dinner and noticed a huge packet of Juice Plus information sitting on the counter. I thought, oh crap, here we go. I waited until my boyfriend's parents went to bed and we looked at the information together. He is super into anti-MLM stuff now because of all the videos I watch. If you haven't done a deep dive into Juice Plus, you should. A lot of health claims about C, as you could imagine. A few days go by and my boyfriend decided to ask his dad about this Juice Plus thing. He said that she was just getting information and wasn't sure if she was going to join or not. We went over to their house the next weekend and somehow we got on the topic of Juice Plus. I didn't want to seem as if I was attacking her, but I wanted to gently let her know the dangers of MLMs and Juice Plus in general. We have a very close relationship and I think that what I said really got through to her. I told her there are millions of other jobs or career paths that she could take to fulfill her dreams that involve a set pay with benefits and doesn't involve messaging strangers on Facebook. At the end of the day, my boyfriend's mom did not end up joining Juice Plus, thank goodness. Linda was pushing her to post on social media, and Mary is not about social media at all. She said she would feel super uncomfortable pushing products like that on social media to her friends and family. I think the fact that Linda is pushing products onto her pregnant patients is so incredibly wrong. That has to violate compliance somehow. It just goes to show huns will do anything to get a buck, even pimping out their husbands during their workouts. Thanks so much for reading this. If you do, I love your videos so much. I look forward to them all week long. Here's a good opportunity maybe to crowdsource information in the comments, because just like you're saying here, I would think like this has to violate something. This has to be non-compliant. Like, how could a healthcare professional be essentially prescribing MLM products to their patients? How is that allowed? And my first reaction is to say like, that can't be right. That's gotta be against the rules, but I don't really know. So if there are any healthcare professionals who do have the power to recommend or prescribe products to patients? Let me know in the comments below, like, is this technically allowed? Are there any regulations? Are there any codes of conduct? I would imagine there have to be, that say, here's the things you can prescribe a patient and here's the things that are off limits. I don't know, I'm not a professional, but a gynecologist making claims that Juice Plus produces the quote, healthiest babies with the biggest umbilical cords, that right there I know for a fact is an unfounded health claim. Even Juice Plus would tell you that that's not allowed. So I don't know, somebody tell me, is this against the rules? Could this person be penalized for doing something like that? Because on one hand, I'm like, that's a scammy, unregulated supplement. How could you possibly be recommending that? But then on the other hand, supplements in general aren't really regulated. Like, are prenatal vitamins regulated? Are prenatal vitamins regulated by the FDA? No, they're not. Prenatals are not FDA approved. They're not regulated. So that's where it kind of gets weird, right? Because a gynecologist can write you a prescription for a prenatal. You can go to the pharmacy and pick it up, but that's not any more regulated than Juice Plus is, right? Am I missing something? Like, somebody tell me. I don't know. It feels morally and ethically uncomfortable and icky and gross to be doing that. I don't think that anybody in a professional setting should be recommending MLM products of any kind, but I can't say for sure that this is definitively breaking some kind of rule. Food for thought. I'm gonna pay attention to the comments below. I'm gonna do some more research on that on my own. But if one thing's for sure, that does not feel okay. That does not feel appropriate. And what a happy ending that you were able to kind of gently provide your opinion on why you think she shouldn't get involved with this, and that she actually took it and that she was able to avoid Juice Plus. This one says, hi Hannah, new viewer and fan, loving your content. Here is my MLM horror story. I have a friend who I was pretty close with and talked to on the regular. I'll call her Amy for privacy purposes. One day, Amy and I were texting, just our regular update on how we were doing. She told me casually that she started this mentorship program and that it has been extremely helpful for her. She gave me some basic info, how her mentor is available whenever she needs support and how she's feeling so great about having this sense of community. She said that she could tell me more about it and that maybe we should get together soon. I thought that it would be nice to get together and that maybe this mentorship thing could be interesting. We had both just graduated from our master's program and we were trying to find our footing, so guidance might be a good thing, right? I had assumed this mentorship was related to our field, but boy was I wrong. She said she didn't mind driving the 30 minutes to the town I lived in, so I offered for her to come over to my place for dinner and just to hang out. But she said, no, let's meet at a coffee shop. I thought this was weird, but I agreed anyway. We met, everything seemed good, and she started talking about this mentorship. She explained that it was a mentorship program that would help you get passive income through starting your own business. Nope, not a thing, doesn't exist. In fact, this sounds like Amway. If someone's telling you that you can have a mentorship program or a community of like-minded women and also make income from home, that's an MLM, hightail it in the opposite direction. She said her mentor is set to retire in a year at the age of 27. Sure. I'm not a business person, so I was just kind of listening and going along to be polite. I asked her what the name of the business was and she wouldn't tell me, saying that it's their policy not to disclose the name because some people have written lies about the company online. This smelled fishy to me, but she was so excited I kept listening. Absolute huge red flag if they are not wanting to tell you what the name of the company is. And the reasoning she gave you is exactly correct. It's because they don't want you to be able to go home, search the name of the company on the internet, and find videos like this one. These days, there's tons of bad press, tons of bad publicity about MLM companies that they don't want you to find, because if you do, then you won't join. And that's why anti-MLM content is so important, I believe, because if there is somebody out there who's not familiar with these types of companies and they're looking to find more information on their own, the search engine optimization is going to pull up these kinds of videos. It's going to pull up articles, videos, Reddit threads, forums of people talking about these companies and giving you all the information that the people in the company don't want you to know, for very good reason, because it's a recruitment-based scheme, so they don't want you to see all the negative stuff on the internet about it, or else they're not going to be able to recruit you and then the business will crumble. It's imperative that they try and employ information control upon the members to block out anything bad and to only focus on the good things, because that's how the scheme thrives. And I haven't even read the rest of your story yet, but this is ringing Amway bells so loudly. They in particular don't really operate their business business on social media online. And the main reason is exactly this, because they want to control the information that is being presented to you. They want to get you face to face in a coffee shop, one-on-one, pitch it to you and get you to sign up right there before you can do your own research. Then she told me about this great book that they have everyone read to help them get in the right mindset. And she just happened to have it in her car, so she would let me borrow it to see what I thought. The book is called The Go-Giver. I went home feeling weird about the visit, which I had never felt after spending time with Amy in the past. I decided to do some digging online and found out that the company was Amway. Ding, ding, ding. A company that distributes a bunch of random stuff and is definitely an MLM. I texted her and asked if this was indeed Amway, and she immediately called me. It was like she was trying to do some kind of damage control and was also offended on behalf of the company. She asked if I would please do a group call with her mentor so he could explain more, to which I stupidly agreed. Damage control is exactly what's going on here, because you did what you weren't supposed to do. Even though you didn't have the name of the company, you still found it on your own free will, and that's really, really bad news for her. So now they're gonna try and like double team you. She's gonna get her upline on, who presumably has been in the company a little bit longer, knows a little bit more, is a little bit more experienced in overcoming the objections that you probably have. That's also a very common strategy, where if you're starting to slip and they're not convinced they can get you on their own, they're gonna gang up on you 2-on-1 with the mentor, with the upline. The call was so awkward. Her mentor made a bunch of weird assumptions about me and my husband, like that my husband was sick when he very much wasn't. What on earth? He was trying to act so caring and to amp me up. But when I told him and Amy that I just couldn't commit to this business opportunity, the mentor guy said that, quote, "I must just not have the heart for this," as if I was weak and didn't want to work hard. In the days after this call, Amy seemed so weird and mad at me, but yet wanted to talk also. I told her I wanted to give her book back since I wasn't getting sucked into this money pit, but I said it more nicely, of course. I kept reading about Amway and found that it is an extremely shady business that often leads people to go bankrupt. I also found the weird cultish script that people are supposed to follow when trying to recruit new people. Amy had used the exact words and phrases that were in the script. The script even said to meet at a coffee shop to talk for the first meeting, which explained her resistance to coming to my house. I felt so gross and betrayed after this. Amy was my close friend, so realizing she was using a straight-up marketing script on me was extremely hurtful. I had a hard talk with her about how this company is bad news and how I didn't feel good about the interaction. We had a tense period, but she has since left Amway since she clearly didn't get rich, and we are good friends again, but I don't fully trust her anymore. This MLM almost ruined our friendship, and that is so upsetting to me. I hate that these MLMs exploit what looks like female friendship and empowerment. It reduces such a wonderful thing to a gross facade to try and make money, and tricks lonely or vulnerable people into doing something that will ultimately harm their well-being. Thanks for bringing awareness to this gigantic problem that almost no one talks about. Hopefully MLMs will fall into obscurity one day, and we will never get a "hey girl" message ever again. Take care. I mean, thank goodness that it didn't actually go as far as to ruin your relationship and that you were able to repair that after the fact. And personally, in my opinion, I think you went about this in the exact way that I would recommend, in the exact way that I would do it myself. And that is, if you have a loved one or a good friend who is in an MLM, love them, care for them, express your concern for them. And for the love of God, do not join them. Do not give them a dime of your money. Because at face value, what that looks like is that you are supporting them. You're buying into their business, you're buying a product, you're joining their team, you're being a good friend and helping them out. But all you're ultimately doing is feeding into the problem. You're feeding into this unethical business model, and you're making that friend believe that this might work for me. I might be able to do it. Look at me. I'm recruiting people. My friends are buying things. And you're ultimately going to delay their realization that this is a scam. Just because some people might see quick success right up front with their friends and family does not mean that they're going to have long-lasting success for years to come. And I think what you did was great by just gently saying, this sounds a little bit sketchy. I don't support it. I'm not going to join. Here's your book back. I don't want to read it, which probably bothered her and stung at the time. But eventually she quit Amway, and it was a little blip in her history that thank goodness she didn't sacrifice your friendship over, right? Because you were willing to hold your ground and say, no, I'm not going to support this, and here's why. But also you were still there for her. Also you were there when she decided to leave Amway. And I think that's great. I think that if you can, if it's healthy, if it's a good decision for you, that you should try and keep those relationships relationships with your loved ones in MLMs because they're really gonna need you when the whole thing crumbles and when they eventually quit. This story says, "Hi Hannah, apologies in advance for the length of this email, but I'm a chronic overwriter. My name is Peyton and you're welcome to share that. I've been watching all your MLM horror story videos recently since you came up in the recommended videos under one I was watching from Savannah Marie. I feel so vindicated hearing that it wasn't just me who was almost scammed by an MLM, and it wasn't just me who was around them all my life without realizing what they were. You are not alone. So many people can relate to that. Even as a kid, I was always exposed to MLMs as my family lived in an affluent suburb of a major city with a lot of stay-at-home moms whose husbands worked good jobs. My mom was a preschool teacher, so she did have a real job, but when my sister and I were kids, she would go to parties for MLMs like Mary Kay, Cabby, Pampered Chef, and Scentsy. She almost got sucked into Young Living, and she was using their oils a lot for a while, and full-on drinking the Kool-Aid about their health benefits. But over time, she saw no tangible improvements in her health, or my sister's, from diffusing oils, and she had my dad and me telling her it was all a lie and to trust doctors. When I first wanted to wear makeup, she pointed me to a unique hun she knew to give me a demonstration on how to do makeup. She regularly bought products from Rodan and Fields. She even talked about wishing she could buy a Kirby vacuum. My cousin on my mom's side even had a friend selling lip scents at the time I was going through sorority recruitment in my freshman year of college, and asked my sister and me if we wanted to try any of their lip colors. At first we were willing to, but her friend ended up leaving Senegence before we could decide what to order. But this particular story of mine is about Cutco. For some background, I was a very good student in high school. I took AP classes and graduated in the top 6% of my class of over 600 people. I had just graduated high school, and that summer my parents were downsizing in anticipation of me going off to college in a major city in their home state. Hi, Zeke. So one day while we were waiting for a showing to end at our house, we went and checked the mail, and I had gotten a letter inviting me to interview with Vector Marketing. I had never applied, but seeing as I was local and had just graduated cum laude with multiple honors and awards, I figured Vector must be a good company in our area wanting recent high school grads, especially kids who had graduated high up in their class, to help out for the summer. And when I saw marketing, I thought it was a marketing firm for like social media and advertising and that sort of stuff. Somehow though, despite my academic accomplishments, I was stupid enough not to Google it first. If I had, I would have seen the whole section on their website addressing the allegations that they are a scam, which would have been a huge red flag. Yeah, just a PSA out there. If there's an MLM website that has an entire section dedicated to how they're not a scam, probably a scam. If you are being cold messaged or pitched by somebody in an MLM who has an entire long scripted detailed argument and rebuttal to the accusation that they are a scam, congrats, probably a scam. People with legitimate jobs, with legitimate businesses, they don't have an argument pre-crafted to overcome the accusation that what they are doing is sketchy. Then I actually went to the interview, and boy was I wrong about my previous assumptions. This was a few years ago, so I don't remember exactly what they said, and I could definitely be missing some things, but I remember the gist of it. The letter I got had an address and a time and date for the interview. So on that day, I drove over to the address, which I had a hard time finding at first because of the way the building was laid out. It was an older, more rundown part of our suburban area, which was built in the 70s, and looked like it hadn't been maintained since. The address led me to an old shopping center that was equally rundown. The reason I had trouble finding the suite is because I had passed the shopping center before, but never actually been in it. So it took me a few minutes to realize that there were suites around the backside as well, and not just employee entrances and extra parking. So that was where Vector was. It was unsurprisingly old and unkempt. It looked pretty dated, stained carpet and wood paneled walls. Why is it that every person I've ever heard interviewing for a Vector Marketing Cutco position goes to a sketchy suite in a basically abandoned strip mall? That is always the case, no matter where the story takes place. That is where Vector Marketing holds their presentations for whatever reason. I'm assuming because it's a cheap and easy to find open space that they can host something like this. But I've made a lot of these horror story videos, and I can't recall even one instance that these interview presentation type things didn't take place in a really sketchy building. So here's my advice to you. If you think you're going to an interview and you pull up to a strip mall, something that looks abandoned, something that looks dated and unkempt, just drive away, okay? Just flip a U-ey, hit the road, pretend like it never happened, okay? When I walked in, I was greeted by someone calling himself the district manager. I guess Vector/Cutco uses more business sounding titles to make their MLM ranks sound legit. In hindsight, he looked about as old as I am, now going into my final semester of college 4 years later. That didn't raise a red flag, but it sure would now. So once everyone arrived for the interview, I got to see who they were really looking for. There were elderly people as well as high schoolers, students from the local community college, and recent graduates looking for jobs. This was a red flag. It seemed like they had no clear idea of who they wanted, and if they were looking for people with more experience, a high school graduate who had only worked at a fast casual restaurant before, such as myself, and was not qualified. But the interview was not exactly an interview. What we got was a presentation on Cutco knives where the district manager cut pennies, and then said that the guaranteed for life warranty on their products only extended to normal wear and tear, not cutting pennies. Then why would you do that? They then brought us in for individual interviews where they asked us personality questions and hired us on the spot. I was excited because they were offering to pay $10 an hour or 15% commission, whichever was more, which sounded good to me at the time. The restaurant I worked at paid minimum wage, which was, and still is, $7.25 an hour in my state. So I texted my parents that they were paying well comparatively, but that the salespeople had to set our own appointments and buy a presentation kit and attend a certain amount of training unpaid. My dad, who works in business and at one point owned his own consulting firm, immediately told me it was a scam and that I should stick with the restaurant. Good dad. I said I really needed some extra money for college. My dad promised to help me find ways to make that extra money. My mom said it wasn't worth it to buy a presentation kit and pester friends and family on Facebook to buy knives. My dad also added that a real job wouldn't make me pay to work there, and furthermore would pay me for the training they required. That is true, 100% true. I told the district manager my parents had been saying it was a scam, and so I was going to have to decline the offer. He gave me the whole spiel on how it wasn't a scam, and that just made it sound more scammy, even to 18-year-old me who was pretty dang desperate. So I told him I would think about it, and then I left the whole interview situation. After I got home, my sister, who was going into her junior year of high school at the time, had the good sense to Google vector marketing and find all the tea about lawsuits and dubious ethics and unpaid wages and how the knives aren't even the quality the company claims they are. It completely changed my view of the opportunity the guy had been trying to sell me on, but it wasn't over yet. I forgot I had given him my phone number, so when he texted me a few days later, it felt really weird. He was asking if I had made a decision on the job offer yet. My decision was no, this is a scam, so I just deleted the message and ghosted him. This experience pretty much jump-started my anti-MLM journey, and since then I have gotten my mom to see the light as well. She was disappointed at first to find out all the products she had been buying at home parties and through her suburban white mom friends and their friends were all just MLMs with shady business models. But once she watched le-vel, she realized these companies had been scamming the people who were selling them, including my 4th grade teacher, and making them scam others. And she really was not happy that she had bought into them for so long. Thanks for all you do to expose MLMs. Hopefully my story and those of others who have had close encounters with Cutco and Vector, as well as other MLMs, show they're using the same old recruitment tactics to prey on people who need money and don't know better. Thank goodness for your dad knowing better. Thank goodness for Googling it. This is what I love to hear because the information is out there. It's out there in a way that it has not been previously. People are more awake to it. People are more aware of it. And I love this example of your mom because anti-MLM is one of those things where it's like when you know, and you can't go back. And I think the le-vel documentary has been extremely effective in getting people to know, right? Because it's on a massive streaming platform that a lot of people have access to. They're clicking through, they're looking for something to watch. It's this brightly colored photo and you're like, what is this? le-vel? Is that based on the LuLaRoe legging company? They click on it, they watch it, and they're like, no way. It is fascinating. Anybody can be entertained by that documentary, and the best part of it is that a lot of the foundation of that documentary can apply to all MLM companies. Yes, it is specific to LuLaRoe, but there is so much that you can pull out of there and the information that they're giving, and it applies to all the other MLMs that you have in your life. And that documentary has been the biggest wake-up call for people, and that has been their gateway into anti-MLM, and that's how they're finding this content on the internet now. And I think that is incredible. So all that to say, good on your dad for being like, nah, that's a scam. Good on the internet for having things out there for you to find when you Google Cutco and Vector creator. Good on the LuLaRich documentary for being out there and accessible to people. All of this is such great news, because even like 10 years ago, this would not have been the case. You may have gone to that interview and you may have been like, wow, this sounds like a pretty good deal and there's nothing out there telling me otherwise, and you might have joined, who knows? So I love this because once you know, there's no going back, and that is the goal, to get this information as widespread as possible. And with that, my friends, it's all the stories I have for you for this MLM horror stories video. If you have your own you want to send in, go ahead and check out the description box for the instructions. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in my next one real soon.